Let's talk about Autonami. Now, what the heck is Autonami? Well, I'm going to give you a quick summary of the most important features so you can determine whether or not you think this product should even be on your radar. If you're still with me after that, hang tight because we're going to go deep into all of the features that I find the coolest, the most profitable. All right, let's get started. What's up, everybody? It's Dave here from Profitable Tools. Now, let's get right into it. What is Autonami? It is a WordPress-based email autoresponder. You'll see the word CRM used throughout the internet, and there's actually quite a few products like this on WordPress right now. There's, of course, Fluent CRM is the most recent one that's got a lot of buzz. There's also Groundhog, a very similar product. These are often referred to as CRMs, and I take offense to that term because a CRM is not about marketing automation, right? A CRM is typically something where you're getting your hands dirty and you're following your prospects through the sales cycle. These types of products, Fluent CRM, Groundhog, and now Autonami, which you could definitely group all three of those together, they're more about marketing automation, taking you out of the equation so that you can let technology help you market more efficiently. Now, what is different between, say, Autonami, Fluent CRM, and Groundhog? Well, I would say that Autonami is really focused on WooCommerce. If you're not using WooCommerce at all on your website, it's probably not a good choice. But that doesn't mean you can't use Autonami if you're, say, running a LearnDash site or you're using, Tutor LMS or one of the other online course platforms. It just means that you won't be able to use those direct integrations. You'll need to use WooCommerce as your checkout process, and then you unlock a wealth of features inside of Autonami. But that is really a deciding factor. No WooCommerce, I probably wouldn't go with Autonami. Of course, Autonami is made by WooFunnels, who also make Funnel Builder Pro, which I reviewed last week. If you're using both of these tools along with WordPress, you're gonna have a ton of analytics and a ton of data to power your marketing. It's a seriously lethal combination. So what are the benefits of using Autonami over, say, something like ActiveCampaign? Well, you're self-hosting, so that means all of the data is gonna stay on your server, and that can be really important when it comes to privacy. Not saying that companies like ActiveCampaign are prone to data breaches, but you're probably a lot less likely to get a data breach on your own website, assuming that you're following some, good data protection habits, than a large multinational company, which is obviously a target, and if they get breached, there's a lot more for hackers to actually take from them. The other upside here, and it's a pretty big one depending on who you are, is you could save a ton of money by self-hosting your email marketing. Now, I've been doing this for years with Mautic, and I'm a big fan of Mautic. I'll be really comparing Autonami to Mautic a lot throughout this course because I feel like they are going to have a lot of overlapping audience, even though Autonami is really focused on particularly WordPress and WooCommerce, and you could really use Mautic with any platform. So how are you going to save money? Well, of course, you're going to need to send these emails from your website somehow. And to do that, you're going to need a transactional email provider. And that's just going to be pennies on the dollar compared to sending the same amount of emails through ActiveCampaign or ConvertKit. I'll show you how to set up email sending a little bit later on in this video, so hang tight. All right, so if you're still with me so far, I'll tell you my top 3 favorite features in Autonami, and then we'll get into actually using the platform. So I think the first thing that people are going to absolutely love is the abandoned cart tracking with the ability to generate custom coupon codes through the abandoned cart emails. So that means you can have a dedicated, personalized coupon code sent out with your abandoned cart emails. This is really powerful, and I'm not sure of another email marketing platform that integrates with WooCommerce to do just this. It's super cool. The next feature that I absolutely love is order tracking inside of WooCommerce. So now you can start to segment your users based on how many times they've ordered, what the average order value is. You could say have a list of your whales, the customers that are spending the most on your website, and you can make dedicated offers just to them. These are things that people do on Shopify with Klaviyo. I know that's a really powerful combination of software on the kind of, SaaS side of things. But if we're doing things inside of WordPress, there's not been a lot of options to get that sort of granular data right into our email marketing platform. So I love Autonami's approach to this, and I'll show you it later on in the video. The third feature that I really think you're going to love is A/B testing for broadcasts. Now, this doesn't work for automated emails, just scheduled broadcasts, and we'll get into more about why that is and why it's maybe not such a bad thing later on. But here is why I think their A/B testing is really good. It operates just like ConvertKits, which in my opinion is how A/B testing should be done. It's sent to a specified, in fact, it's even more granular than ConvertKit because you can specify a amount of the audience you want to send the test to. So let's say I have 2 emails and I change the subject line on one of them, and then I send out those 2 emails to 10% of the audience. After that 10% has received the email, you can get some data back about which one is getting the higher open rate, and then you can send that optimized subject line to the remaining 90% of your audience. That is really powerful and a great way to begin to test and see what your audience is going to respond to when it comes to getting them to actually read your emails, key to doing any sort of e-commerce via email. All right, so those are some of my favorite features about Autonami. Again, you're going to need to be a WooCommerce user. If you are, let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to set up email sending on my website first. All right, so here we are. I'm on the back end of a WordPress demo installation. Now, what we need to do before we actually begin to use Autonami is we have to set up our WordPress website to send out emails. Now, you might have already done this. If you have, you can check the table of contents down below and just skip past this. But I see so many people struggle with this type of scenario where they say, hey, I'm not getting emails from my WordPress website. And that's typically because you've not set up a transactional email provider. This is something that is required for every WordPress website in 2021. It no longer is good enough to just rely on your host to take care of emails for you. So the way I recommend doing this is going over to plugins and hit add new. Now we're going to grab a free plugin off of the WordPress repository, and we're going to grab one called Fluent SMTP. Now you may know of Fluent, that is the company WP managed Ninja. They make Fluent Forms, Fluent CRM, a lot of really great products. Ninja Tables is another one of them. So they actually make a competing product, but they have this great free plugin that allows you to send emails from your WordPress website. So we're going to go ahead and install this and activate it. And then I'm going to be using Amazon SES for the transactional email service. All right, so I've activated the plugin and it's telling me I need to configure this. So I'm going to click on that and I'm just going to choose Amazon SES. You can see they support a lot of different providers of email sending. I think SES is the most cost effective. I've covered that in several other videos, so we're not going to go into great detail here. But then I can set up my sender settings, which is going to be my from email and my from name. I'm going to click this checkbox right here that says force sender name. That will make sure that every email that goes out from this server is using this sender name. All right, that's what I want. Now I need to add some access keys and a secret key in over from AWS. So here I am logged into my AWS account. If you don't have one, you'll need to get that set up. It's totally free to sign up. AWS, it can be a little bit overwhelming, but if you're brand new to it, it's essentially going to charge you on how much you use. So there's not a monthly fee associated with it, which makes it really powerful. So if you're not using your website to send any emails this month, which you should be, but let's say you take a month off, you're not going to get charged anything. If you compare that to like ActiveCampaign, let's say you have 10,000 subscribers, that's going to be roughly in the neighborhood of, I'd say like $300 to $400 that month, and you're not even sending out any emails. Yeah, so just to show you here, ActiveCampaign, 10,000 contacts, we're looking at $279 per month for their professional plan. Sure, you can get a little bit cheaper if you go down to Lite or Plus, but this is the one that most people are going to go with to get all of the features we're going to show you inside of Autonami. All right, back over to AWS. What we need to do is set up a user account so that our WordPress website can actually send emails. So you might think I need to go over to Simple Email Service because that is the service that is going to be sending the emails. But actually, we set up user accounts in AWS over here where it says IAM. So IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. What I'm going to do here is go ahead and create a new user. You can give this username anything that you want. And then we're going to give it programmatic access right here. And I'll do next. We're going to attach existing policies here. And on the search box, I'm going to search for SES. And what I want is this SES full access. I'll choose this and go next. You don't need to enter in any tags here. That is totally optional. And then you'll hit create user on the next screen. And at this point, you're going to see your access key and your secret key. This is what we need to copy and paste over into Fluent CRM. So I'll copy this, paste it in, grab my secret key and paste it in. Now, the more secure way to do this is actually put it into the config file, but I'm not doing that for the sake of this video, just kind of timeliness. But for a production website, I definitely recommend putting it into the config file. They give you some instructions on how to do that over here. All right, under region, this depends on what region you set up your AWS account in. I know that mine is in US West Oregon, so that's what I'm going to choose here. I'll go ahead and save the connection settings. And that's pretty much it for sending. Now, we still want to get notifications if our emails bounce back, and I'll show you how to set that up. It's only going to take a second, but let's go ahead and test out the email sending here and just make sure everything works. All right, sure enough, here we go. This is the Fluent CRM confirmation message just to prove to me that the emails are actually being sent from my website. All right, so that's great. That means that sending is all configured. The next thing we need to do is set up bounce management. All right, so now I'm back over inside of Autonami, and we need to set up the bounce handling inside Autonami since it's going to be in charge of actually sending out the emails. So under Autonami, we're going to go down to settings, and then under email, this is where I need to set things up. Now, I'm going to change the from name to be my actual name, and I'm going to update the from address as well. Under sending limits, these numbers are actually pretty important. So this is the number of emails that you can send per second. Autonami is going to batch everything like crons. It's going to do everything in doses so that it doesn't completely overwhelm your email server or your web server, really is what I'm talking about here. So you can imagine if you had 10,000 contacts, if it tried to send all 10,000 contacts in the same go, it would not only overwhelm your server, but it would overwhelm AWS, who's probably not allowing you to send that many emails. Now, I kind of skipped through a lot of the SES setup. If you've never had an SES account before, you'll definitely want to check out one of my other videos on actually setting up SES and getting out of sandbox mode so that you're free to send to anybody. But assuming that you've done that, you can go ahead and log into your SES account and then click on sending statistics. This is where you're going to see your max sending rate. Like I can send 40 emails per second, and we have a sending quota of 500,000 emails per day or per 24-hour period. Those numbers are going to be very important over here in Autonami because I wouldn't want to choose a number higher than 40 per second because otherwise, Amazon is not really going to respect that. It's not going to let me send more than that 40. So maybe I'll set this to be something just under that maximum, let's say like 30. And then the email limit per day, I think that's pretty good. I could set that like 250,000. I don't have that many subscribers, so no big deal. Now we're going to get to bounce tracking. You can see that's down here at the bottom. But while we're talking about the limits per day, you might be wondering, well, how many contacts can Autonami really handle? And that's a good question because I haven't personally stress tested it myself. The question also comes up with any of these self-hosted, plugins that run inside of WordPress. I think that is definitely an eye-raising thing, right? Because WordPress and WooCommerce are already resource intensive. It's going to be hard for your server to maybe be doing dozens of transactions per minute on WooCommerce, serving up data, for your online courses or your products, whatever it is that you're serving. And then also asking it to do email marketing automation can be a little bit overwhelming. So you're going to want to have, a really great hosting plan here, something where you're probably on your own VPS and you can get at least maybe 4 or 8 gigabytes of RAM, assuming, you're doing some volume here. If you're under 1,000 contacts, you probably don't have a whole lot to worry about. These numbers are very difficult to discuss with any sort of authority because it really is going to be case dependent. It's going to matter how many people are actually using your website at any given time. Because some of this stuff can't be cached, right? If we're talking about online courses and taking quizzes or doing checkouts, some of that stuff cannot be cached. So even if you have a pretty good hosting plan, you could have 20, 25 people on your site at once, and that could really bring it to its knees. But the beautiful thing about the modern kind of commodity hosting, if you're going with, Vultr, AWS, DigitalOcean, something like that, is you can just bump it up. You can just scale up with whatever your website demands at that time. So little aside there, but I think it's really worth noting. If you're going to put all of this load on your website, make sure you're prepared to bump up your monthly hosting costs to kind of balance things out. You're still going to save money in the long run, in my opinion, because it's just so much cheaper than using something like ActiveCampaign, which I actually think is an amazing service. I'm not trying to knock ActiveCampaign. All right, so back on track. What I actually promised to tell you about was bounce tracking right down here. So we're going to turn this on, and then we're going to choose the email service that we're using, which is Amazon SES. Now it gives us this webhook right here. This is what we need to put into Amazon SES. Actually, not SES. We're going to use SNS to do our notifications, to keep our website alert that bounces or complaints are actually happening. That way, those contacts can be pulled out of circulation, and you're not continuing to email them, which would obviously damage your reputation and overall your deliverability. And in the end, that'll affect your profitability. All right, so I'm going to copy this webhook right here. Oh, first little bug to report. The copy button's not working. That might be it's on my end. I don't know, but I can just copy the URL the old-fashioned way. Then we're going to head back over to Amazon AWS. And this time I'm going to go over to services and choose simple notification service. What we need to do here is create a new topic. We're going to create a standard topic. That is the first thing you don't want to get wrong here, is to choose their kind of newer platform, but standard topic is what we want. Let's go ahead and give this a name. It can be anything you want. It just has to not contain any spaces. So we'll call it Autonami Demo. And then we can give it a display name, a little bit more of a friendly name if you want. But I'm good with skipping that and just hit create topic. And here we go. We've got our topic created. Now what we need to do is create a subscription. I know this all seems kind of complicated, but just follow along with me. It's really not too bad. We'll go under create subscription. You want to make sure that your topic is chosen right here. So this is the Autonami demo that I just created. And then under protocol, we are going to choose HTTPS. And the endpoint is going to be that webhook that we just copied over from Autonami. Then we're just going to hit create subscription. We click back out to our topic level. We should see that it is confirmed right here. That means that you added the correct endpoint. So from this point of view, everything is set up with SNS. Now we just need to connect SNS to SES. Are you with me? I know it's getting confusing. Again, you can skip ahead to the Autonami demo a little bit later on if this is getting boring for you, but I think a lot of people are going to struggle with this. So it's important to go ahead and show you what to do. So we're going to jump back over into SES, and then you're going to go ahead and find your domain under domains here and click on notifications. Then you'll hit edit configuration. And here's where you're going to want to set up your policies that you just created. So for bounces and complaints, I'm going to choose Autonami demo. You can make sure that email feedback forwarding is turned off. If you accidentally leave this on, they're going to also email you every time there is a bounce or complaint. Just let the software handle it. Then go ahead and hit save config and you're all done. All right, so our email sending is configured. The next thing we're going to do is actually look at what it's like to build an email inside of Autonami. I do want to mention that a little bit later on in the video, I'm going to go ahead and set up SMS messaging as well, so you can see how you can send text messages via Autonami. So definitely hang with till the end of the video to see that. All right, let's get into the builder here. So what does it look like when you're actually creating an email? Because I think that user experience, you can look at all of the features on paper, but if that user experience of actually writing emails is subpar, you're probably going to end up avoiding using the tool, and then you'll get frustrated and switch to something else. So under campaigns, we're going to go ahead and make a broadcast. So campaigns is where you're actually creating your emails. I think it might be nice to relabel that just emails so you can get a better idea of where to go. But we have basically automations, which are going to be sequences of emails that get sent out. And then we have broadcasts, which are going to be more like your newsletters or your more timely alerts. Templates are emails that you want to use as a template that you can easily adapt and send out later. So if you have like a newsletter template, you can go to that each week and then use it as the basis to create that week's newsletter. So starting off just with the broadcast, we're gonna go ahead and click under broadcast. You can see that I've got a demo that I set up here earlier. I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. You can also edit it or clone it right here. So if you wanted to kind of reuse things, we could do that. I'm gonna go ahead and hit delete. And let's add a new email. Important to point out before I hit new email that there is a tab over here for SMS. We'll be coming back to that later on. So let's add a new email. I'm gonna call this Autonami test, and let's hit add. So the first thing Autonami wants is a name for the email. This is just for your internal use so that you can organize your broadcast. It might be something like newsletter for the week of, June 13th or whatever. Let's say newsletter volume 1. And then you can choose between a standard email and an A/B tested email. Standard email is exactly what you think. It's just going to be writing the email. A/B testing, I mentioned at the beginning of the video how I'm a big fan of how they did this here. Before we move on to the A/B testing, there's one more checkbox. I find this a little bit interesting. You can basically override anybody who's unsubscribed and still send them a mail. I know certain software companies who I think must use this software because I unsubscribe and they keep emailing me. All right, that aside, let's go ahead and go to the A/B testing and see how this feature works. Now I only have 2 contacts inside of my Autonami setup, so that's going to be fine here. But obviously you'd probably want to have a much larger audience if you're actually doing A/B testing. Now we have not looked at how you can segment users in Autonami. There's a lot of features there in terms of tags, lists, and segments I will go into shortly, but let's just check out this email builder and check out A/B testing along the way. All right, so for now, I'm going to send to both of my contacts. You've got the option to change your from name and your reply address up here at the top, and then we can enter in our email subject. And then we have the preview text down here, which I really like. So, on your phone, you'll see the little like first line of the email. You can customize that right here. So even if it's not the first line of the email, you can go ahead and enter it. So I've got my control over here, and then I can switch over to the variants where I can change things. Maybe I'll just remove really cool and just say, check this out. So I'll show you their email builder in a second here. There's a lot more to it than it looks like on the surface. But if I turn on this feature, Smart Sending, this has got me super excited about A/B testing, because this is where I can choose the sample size, how many people are going to get this initial test before it chooses a winner for me. This is what I want to see out of A/B testing. I don't want to have to do everything manually and make sure that I come back to see what the winner is and then resend to an unsent segment. Doing it for me is definitely the way to do it, and I love this. So you can see here it says, this broadcast will be sent to 15% of your contacts. After 3 hours, open rights of all of the variants would be analyzed, and the one with the most opens would be sent the remaining contacts. So I can change those numbers. I could do 10%, and I could wait 8 hours if I wanted. Obviously, the longer you wait, the higher those open rates are going to be. So the more accurate your testing will be, but you don't always want to wait 8 hours to send out your emails either. So case by case scenario there. Okay, so that's A/B testing. I'm really stoked about it. You can add as many variants as you want here. It looks like you can add 3 variants, which is great. You never would want to do more than 3 for an A/B test, or ABC test, I guess, at that point. So I'm going to go ahead and actually get rid of all of the testing, and let's enter into their email building setup here. So what are our options? Well, first of all, we can just write a plain text email. This is what I prefer 95% of the time for the businesses that I work with. Get the best results just sending plain text emails. But if you do e-commerce, which is what Autonami is really built for, then you're probably going to want a little bit more elaborate layout. So you can use HTML, right? You can go to any of the HTML email building tools, just paste in your HTML, and you'll have a great looking email. Or this is what makes Autonami really exciting, is it has a drag and drop editor. So I can open this up. Now this is not quite Gutenberg, but it's kind of similar. If you're comfortable with any sort of page builder, using this application should be fairly simple for you. So we've got some elements here. These are under the content section. So I can start to just drop things in, like maybe I want to have a heading, want to have, some text underneath that. And maybe I'll feature a product. I can do that. And then I could have a divider after it. And, you can just continue on writing your kind of e-commerce style newsletter here. But this is looking kind of sparse and weird. So how can we actually make this look like a regular email? Well, first thing is that this right here, you can see if I go off the content, it kind of selects this area. This is called a row, and I can give the row a background color. So for me, I'm gonna probably make that white, right? Let's go ahead and choose white from the hex code down there. And that's looking a lot better, but it's a little bit narrow. I probably want this to be a little wider. It'll look really good on smartphones, but if someone does open it up on a tablet or on a desktop, it might look too narrow. So I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. To do this, I'm not inside the content area. I'm going to go down to where it says body. And here I have the ability to change the content width. I usually like to make my emails about 600 to 650. I think that generally looks the best and tends to get me really good results. So I'm going to set this to 630 right now. I like that width. It's looking pretty good. I did notice that the content is maybe a little bit close to the sides of my row here, I guess they're calling it. So I'm going to click over onto the row again, and here's where I can actually add in some padding on all sides. So I can just kind of, either type in a value here like 15, or I can just use the plus and minus buttons to increase that as I'm watching it change over here on the right. If I click more options, I can kind of split those apart so they're unlocked, and I could say make the top and bottom a certain number of padding and the left and right a different number. Same thing goes with border. Now this will be a border around the row, right? So I can go ahead and add in a solid border here. You can see if I click away, there's now a nice thick gray border around this section. I could add in a new section if I wanted, or new row, by clicking there and adding in some content. Drop in maybe another heading, some more text, and another product. There are different column features here where I can have maybe a 1 column or a 2 column setup. For now, I'm just going to stick with a single 1 column. And then we probably want to change the background here to match our other one. And let's add in some padding to our sides again. I think we did 15 before, and we'll add in another border. So now I've got 2 rows with a single column each. Would be nice to have a little bit of spacing between them. I think that would look pretty nice. So I can go under the row properties and I'll unlock this. Let's just add in a little bit of spacing between the top row and the bottom row. All right, there we go. That's looking pretty good. Kind of gives it more of like a morning brew type of look. This is pretty challenging to do in other email editors, even paid SaaS products. So I think this is a really, really strong email builder. I'm pretty excited about it. I mentioned that I use Mautic, and Mautic's got a new integration with Grapes.js. Honestly, this email builder pretty much knocks it out of the water. So what don't I like? Well, right now it's pretty much just some naming conventions, like this idea of merge tags. That's a really weird name for personalization tokens, right? So I think merge tags, like I'm somehow taking people that have been tagged for making events on my website and then like combining them together or something. No, it's simply just like placeholder, like, so you can do hot linking of specific things. Like if I want to put someone's username in, I can go to contacts and I could say their first name, right? I'm going to copy that and I could be like, hey, Jim, hey, first name, and then you get that in the headline. So that's what merge tags means. So some of the naming conventions I think are a little bit outside of what I'm used to in the applications that I've come from. Text editing is nice and smooth, just like you'd expect. We've got all of our kind of standard text editing features here. Alignment, underlining, bold, emojis are right there. Everything you could probably, expect to find is easy to get to. Linking, of course, is available as well. All right, so that's the email builder. I could probably spend all day talking about it. Let's go ahead and hit save for now, and we'll move on to some more features. So when you hit save, it pops you back out into the broadcast builder here. This is where you can actually send off a test email. You could save this email as a template. So if you're going to be, making more newsletters that look like the email you just built, you don't have to redo it. And then next time you make a broadcast, you just go to My Templates and be able to grab that. You can also see a preview here of what it's actually going to look like. Click on Show Preview, and you get a preview inside of this little Moto pop-up. It has maybe some rendering issues inside of Chrome right now because it's kind of going past this line at the top, small little thing. I've noticed a couple little glitches like this throughout the software where they have maybe a little bit of coding tweaks to do on their modal pop-ups specifically. That seems to be what is kind of broken. We can add UTM parameters. This is for Google Analytics. So these are often called tags. So you're creating the tags for your UTM parameters. Don't be confused. This is not tagging for your database or tagging your contact list. This is simply so that you can track things inside of Google Analytics. So the idea, campaign source being your newsletter, where is the traffic coming from? The campaign is medium. So again, source is what is it actually coming from? Is that your email sequence, a sales sequence, something like that? And then the medium, is it social media? Is it an email? Things like that. Then you can give it a specific name so you can really tell where things are coming from. And then you can also add terms and content if necessary. Typically, these first 3 are things you'll see in every sort of UTM campaign. So what will happen when you turn this on is that these UTM parameters will automatically be added to any links that are inside of the email, which is really great because that's going to show up. Any clicks will show up inside of Google Analytics so you can see actually where your traffic is really coming from. Okay, so on the next page, this is where I can actually go ahead and schedule things. I can either send it right now or I can schedule it for later. It's got a nice picker here, very, very clear when the email is going to go out. Obviously, this is going to be in your local time zone, wherever you have your server set to. That would be actually done at the WordPress level. I'm actually going to skip out of here because I don't need to send this. So I'll show you under settings. If you go under general, you can set your time zone here, and that's where it's going to pull from. One of the refreshing things that the Autonami team did is they didn't try to build some form builder, get halfway through it and ship it, call it good enough. We're on WordPress here. There are dozens of great form plugins. So instead, they've just gone ahead and integrated with some of the best ones. So we can add a new form over here. Just click Add New. You'll give the form a name, hit Add, and then they're going to ask you where the form is coming from. So is this an Elementor form? Is it Gravity Forms? They also support WP Forms, Fluent Forms, and then just WooFunnels opt-ins. which if you're not familiar with WooFunnels opt-ins, WooFunnels is the Funnel Builder Pro plugin I reviewed last week. It's got an opt-in section, so you can actually create opt-ins to kind of try to get leads for your website right inside of the Funnel Builder. Really cool, powerful stuff. I've got Fluent Forms installed here, so let's go ahead and connect up a Fluent form here. I choose this, and you can see all of the different forms that I have available to me. I've got this conversational form. I'm gonna go ahead and grab that. It pulls in all of the fields inside of the form, so it has a name, a email, a subject, and your query, kind of your message type of field. So I can go ahead and map these into Autonami. Name is name, email is email, so on and so forth. So obviously the scenario is someone is opting into my email list here, right? That's why they're filling out the form. At that point, I can tag them or I can add them to a list. And this is probably a good transition point to talk about how segmenting works inside of Autonami. To do that, let's go over to contacts. So you can see we've got some tabs at the top. We have all, audiences, fields, lists, and tags. Now, in my opinion, there's one here that doesn't belong, and it's lists. We can just kill that. Fluent CRM did this too. We don't need lists. If we've got audiences, which are really just dynamic segments, we don't need lists. I understand that some people are attached to it. They, if they've been doing MailChimp for 15 years, lists are a thing that MailChimp doesn't seem to want to give up. But for modern email marketing, I don't see any reason to actually use lists at this point because we can create lists based on audiences. So if we go under audiences, we can create a new audience. I could say this is like my newsletter subscribers, right? And then the filters for the newsletter subscribers could be something like they have the tags, newsletter, opt-in. Now, unfortunately, I don't have that tag added into Autonami, and it's not letting me create them at the same time that I'm creating my dynamic segments. That is definitely a small weak spot. I'd love to see the ability to add new tags right inside of the segment builder. I'm going to call them segments, audience builder, whatever you'd like to call it. So in order to actually add this tag, I'm going to go over here to the end where it has a list of tags. I'll go ahead and add it here. And then back over to my segments, my audiences, I'll go ahead and add that new audience again, newsletter subscribers. Add a filter, segments, tags, and now I can say anyone who's got the newsletter opt-in tag is going to be a part of this segment. Now, how does that work? Well, when someone goes to my form, let's open that back up. We'll go under the mapping. We can add tags to this form, right? So anyone who fills out this form is going to get the newsletter opt-in tag. They'll automatically be added into my segment. What's really nice about this and why I prefer this is it kind of leaves a paper trail of all of the actions someone has taken on your website, and it's portable. So if at some point in the future, I do want to move away from, a self-hosted email marketing solution, I can export my contacts, and all of those tags are going to be something that any platform can understand. So this is a little bit of future proofing. Not that I'd be planning to move away from this platform, but you never want to lock yourself in so that you're stuck with it until the bitter end. All right, so back over to contacts, kind of just rounding out this section. I can click on any contact and get a more detailed look at what they've been up to. So if you're doing this at a smaller scale and you want to be able to engage with people and not do it, with automation, which really is where the power of Autonami comes from. You can do that, right? You can look in and see, okay, what have they bought? What funnels have they been through? If you're using Funnel Builder Pro, these two tools really work powerfully together because getting this information, seeing what they've opted in, what they've bought, upsells, bump offers, those types of things. Just doing that from one overview screen, really a cool thing. I could add tags here. I could add them to lists. You could do things like request their phone number. So if you want to send them text messages, you need to have a phone number, right? So maybe I'll add in a phone number here for later on. When update this, that's something you definitely want to acquire, at the time of checkout. If, you're going to send text messages to people who have already bought on your website. It's kind of weird to ask for a phone number when you're just doing like an opt-in, but a phone number when people are checking out, that's much less awkward. So I definitely would recommend that. All right, so under purchases, you can see a list of all of the specific purchases that have been made. AOV, average order value. You can see that this is less than the average order value for most people on the website. So that's kind of nice. You can see, kind of how the person fits in. They try to give us some of those insights up here at the top. Actually, they say this is a customer, meaning they've purchased before. It's a new customer, meaning they've purchased for the first time recently, and that they have an average order value that is a little bit on the low side. The email section is going to show me any emails that have gone out to this person. Same thing with the SMS. Obviously, there's nothing going on there. Funnels will show me in more detail all of the funnels that they have gone through. And then notes, this is just a place for you to leave notes on the specific contact. Maybe they're having an issue with an order or something like that. You want to drop a note there, you can do that. It's definitely not a full customer support panel, but it's better than nothing. If you're noticing that this interface is super fast, it's not because I'm pulling any sort of magic tricks or that this is self-hosted. It's not. This is, on the cloud right now. I'm going up to a website and interacting with it. It's fast because of a couple things. First of all, it's not getting a lot of traffic, right? This is a demo site. There's not a lot of people going there. But second of all, it's also built with React.js. So it's, very modern, forward-thinking. WooCommerce is kind of moving over to this platform as well. Definitely kind of the future of coding or the future of development. Good to see that this product is already there. I mentioned importing and exporting recently. Those options are available to you as well. I know that Fluent CRM took a while to add that in. It was one of the reasons that really held me back from using it heavily. We can export and import contacts here. I think Fluent can do that now. It just took them a while to get there. We can import and export contacts here. We can also filter over here, so that'll change what columns are displayed here in our grid. So if I don't need to see tags, I can close that and that disappears. Or in my case, I would hide lists, right? Because I despise lists. You can add custom fields. That's important to note. You can either do that right on the contact page. We'll go back to our contacts here. You can add a custom field right here. You can add a field group or a field itself, or you can of course do it from the contact page itself, where you can add custom fields. What are custom fields and when would you use them, aside from tags? Well, generally tags are kind of, for me, they're a track record of something that has happened. Custom fields are going to be more like a status, like a subscriber, things like that, where it can be on and off because it's typically going to have less variables to it. Topic for another discussion, but just in case you're curious, we can have a custom field for maybe they have a company phone number and a mobile phone number. We can have a custom field for that. Each one of the custom fields is going to have a merge tag or a personalization tag that you can copy and then paste inside of your emails. So just a couple more things to cover here, and then I'll set up SMS and we can get this video concluded. First thing I want to talk about is carts. So this is really great because everything's on the same platform, right? We got WooCommerce and then Autonami are all living on the same website. So no data needs to be sent around the internet. It's going to be very easy to actually recover the exact cart that has been abandoned. This can add a ton of revenue for your business. So the idea is, if you're not familiar with what a abandoned cart is, it's someone's going through the checkout process and then they decide they don't want to buy yet, right? And they venture off and do something else on the web. Well, you can have that cart actually trigger a series of emails in which you can include a discount if someone comes back to, you don't have to include a discount, but you can just remind someone gently that they left their cart full of things and they can come back and finish the checkout. If you really want to entice them, you can include that custom coupon code so that they can also get a little bit of a discount. So how does this all work? Well, we've got 3 tabs here: recoverable, meaning that these are carts that have been abandoned. We've got recovered, meaning that these are carts where those emails were actually sent out and it was successful. And then we've got lost. That's going to be carts that were abandoned and then never completed. So at a certain point in time, you just wouldn't expect to get that person back. How do you set this all up? Okay, so under settings, we can go under cart. This is going to be all of the details for cart recovery. So how long do we want to wait before we actually mark that cart as recoverable and then start sending people emails? Sometimes if you've got a lot of questions on the checkout form, you don't want to be sending them recovery questions before they could have actually completed their purchase. So I'd say wait an hour or 2 is probably a good idea. It sets it up at 15 minutes. I think that's a little bit short. The cool off period, this is set to 15 days. It says it excludes customers from cart abandonment tracking if their order was placed a certain number of days ago. So allowing them to not get that cart abandonment sequence if they've already ordered within the last 15 days. And then lost carts, when are those orders deemed, unrecoverable? You can add tags when someone leaves an abandoned cart. You can do that right here, add a tag in. You can also start to track them when they hit the add to cart button rather than when they actually begin the checkout process. So that's probably what I would recommend doing. This is only going to work for logged in users because if someone hasn't started typing out their email address, you won't obviously know who they are. If you don't want your staff or your team to be getting any sort of cart abandonment emails, you can exclude certain user roles or even just blacklist their emails right here to avoid any annoying messages. And then down here at the bottom, there's a success notice or a failure notice to let them know whether or not they were able to restore the cart, putting all the items back in and allowing someone to finish checking out. Okay, so you'll need to set up all of those things, and that'll kind of give you the parameters for how the cart tracking works over here. Tracking is really only happening with Autonami at the cart level. It's one of the downsides, of using Autonami over using something like Mautic or ActiveCampaign, where you can actually have a tracking pixel follow them around the entire website. You can see maybe what products or services they're interested in before they even opt in. So that is one of the strengths of using something like Mautic, which I'm, obviously a very big fan of, but it doesn't do a lot of the things that Autonami does. So you kind of got to figure out, which is the better fit for your business. Okay, so what actually happens when a cart gets abandoned? Well, that's going to be set up over here under automations. We've got 2 abandoned cart automations set up here already. Let's go ahead and look at them. So here's our workflow. So when a cart gets abandoned inside of WooCommerce, and I can track conversions here by turning that on. When a cart gets abandoned, then we are going to send an email, and here is the email. I can actually go ahead and grab a template for this if I want. You can send test emails, edit the subject line, all of that. Go into the drag and drop editor if you prefer to do that. And then you're going to wait 24 hours before you send them another email. So you can see the 24-hour delay. And inside of this email is going to actually have a custom coupon code included, which is awesome. So here's the custom coupon code. You can go ahead and modify the settings here. You can base it on another coupon and then just change the actual code itself using their merge tags or their personalization tags. If you're worried about someone taking that coupon code and then just sharing it on social media so everyone can take advantage of it, well, you can set a custom expiration time, so 72 hours in this case, and I can also restrict it to that particular email address so that it can't just be shared, wildly. You might want to just consider allowing them to share it if it's, a profitable coupon for you. Who really cares if people feel like they're gaming the system, but you're making more profit? It is what it is. So that's up to you. We can set the delay right here inside of this delay block right here. So I can change this to come out immediately if you wanted to do that, or you could have a fixed time. So it goes on a specific day. If this is related to a specific event, you could say, send out this coupon to everybody who hasn't bought by a certain time. It's kind of like a last chance savings type of thing. Or you can delay it a custom amount, say 24 hours. You can do that in minutes and days as well. Nice little additional options here. Really good on the fit and finish, as I mentioned, inside of WooFunnels or the Funnel Builder Pro plugin. I liked how they had all of these extra features that sometimes developers leave out. So I can delay till a specific time of day. So if I choose this, maybe I want all of these emails to go out at 9 a.m., but I want them to wait 24 hours first. That is really cool and not easy to accomplish with a lot of these types of plugins. Same thing with this checkbox to only send on specific days of the week. So maybe you want to send this just on the weekdays. You could easily do that and then just avoid, weekends for whatever reason. All right, so back into our workflow, that email gets sent out with the coupon code, and then another email gets sent out 2 days later to remind them that their coupon is expiring in 24 hours because it lasted 72 hours. And at that point, you could do anything that you want. I was just kind of playing around with some different options here. So I could add in, let's say I wanted to add in another action. I could choose a direct action, which would happen automatically, or I could add something called a conditional action, which would need other circumstances to decide what's going to happen. As an example, let's say we want to offer someone a discount, but only if their cart value is above $1,000. Well, then I could configure a rule that if the cart value is, choose cart total, is greater than, let's say, $9.99, and that's all I need there. I could add more actions if I want, but in this case, if the cart value is more than $1,000, then I want to go under WooCommerce and create a coupon, and then we'll email them that coupon, right? So that is basically, we replace this little conditional section with the previous one so that you could segment whether or not you want to send out those abandoned cart discounts. So if yes, then they're going to get the email with the coupon. I'd still need to add in another action here to actually send the email, right? But if not, then I could just go ahead and send them a message saying, hey, you left your cart is abandoned. So we can really customize things, really full featured here. I would say it's not quite as advanced as some other email marketing automation tools, but the fact that we have conditional options here now bodes well for the future. But it doesn't do simple things like if I want to check if someone's opened an email, and if they haven't, resend to them. I think that's, kind of a standard automation that I look for when I'm looking at these types of builders. I don't see any way to do that right now because like right here, I've got an email set up. And if I want to check to see if that email is opened, which I can't do because that's not one of the conditions, right? Everything is kind of related to the cart here. On the flip side of that, we've got a lot of metrics here that are not super easy to get as soon as you leave WooCommerce. So in terms of how effective are the actual automations, well, I can see the engagement over here. Now, obviously, I haven't sent out this actual automation, but I'd be able to see which contacts got sent the automation, how many opens there are, what the click rate is, how many people unsubscribed, how many people converted, and what the revenue from each email sent is. And that is really, really powerful information. I can even go into the actual orders that were associated with that email that was sent out. This is really high-level e-commerce marketing, super exciting stuff if you're running an e-commerce shop. Of course, we can get more analytics over in the analytics section where we can see, the abandoned cart sequences. We can see each contacts. You can see the emails and SMS messages, as well as overall engagement. The engagement section probably shouldn't be overlooked. This is really unique. It's going to give you an idea of when people are opening your emails, what time of day and what day of the week is best for you to send emails. That's gold, right? That's really, really important data to have. All right, let's wrap this thing up by connecting up Twilio and we can look at sending SMS messages. So I'm gonna go over to connectors. This is where you can integrate with all sorts of different applications. And actually, interestingly enough, it works with a lot of other email marketing platforms like ConvertKit, ActiveCampaign, Drip, HubSpot, even works with my favorite Mautic. So, you could definitely use these two platforms together if you wanted. All right, let's go ahead and connect up to Twilio, which is what we're gonna use for sending out our SMS messages. Now, as soon as you hit connect, it pops open this dialog box and it asks for your Twilio account information. To get this information is super easy. Just log into your Twilio account and it's gonna be front and center. So you can see here is my phone number. I can see my SID and my auth token. You simply copy and paste these over into Autonami. Then hit connect and you're good to go. As soon as you have Twilio connected, you will be able to add SMS messages to your campaign. So I can go over to my automations here. I could add in an SMS message to my cart recovery. So right as soon as a cart is recovered, I can add a direct action, which is going to be a message. And this time I can send an SMS. You can see that field wasn't there before. I can continue and then I can text someone. I can even text them that discount code later on in the sequence if I wanted to. Of course, it's also going to be available in your broadcast. Instead of making email broadcasts, you can do SMS broadcasts. Just go under the SMS tab here. Go ahead and follow the same instructions. It's going to be just text. You can't do, obviously, it's nicely designed layouts inside of SMS. It does have A/B testing for SMS, though. That's really cool. It'll show you your segments, or in my case, I only have the one contact with a phone number. I can choose that. And then just simply go ahead and type out your SMS message. You can even use those personalization tags and you're good to go. The only setting that is relevant to SMS is, obviously under settings here, there's the ability to type stop to unsubscribe. You'll definitely want to make sure that that is configured correctly so that same thing as with email, you don't want your messages basically harassing people. You can get into a lot of trouble for that. All right, so that's it. That's my thoughts on Autonami. A lot of really good stuff happening here. Just a few small things I'd love to see improved. But man, what a great time to be alive in terms of all of the email marketing automation options we have available to us. I think if you are using Funnel Builder Pro along with WooCommerce, this is, they include it in a bundle. So it really makes a lot of sense to kind of just keep everything in-house if possible. At some point, you probably will reach the upper limits, assuming your brand keeps growing, of what this type of situation can handle. That's why I recommend using tags throughout so it's easy to move off and kind of separate things onto different platforms. Now, when would I avoid this? Well, obviously, if you're not using WooCommerce, it's not really worth your time. But I would also avoid it if you're using multiple websites. Let's say you have a specific LMS website, and then you have an e-commerce website, and you have maybe another one that you do for like a forum or something like that. They're all running WordPress, and you do single sign-on between them. In that case, it's going to probably be more difficult than it's worth to try to connect them all together. This really works best when everything is on the same actual installation of WordPress and not spread out across different sites on the web. So that is my 2 cents on Autonami. I think it's a super solid product. I do have a link down below. I want to be perfectly clear. This was not a sponsored video, just my own opinions. I have a link down below. If you found this video helpful, you want to support out the channel, you can click on that. I will earn a commission after you make a purchase from clicking on that link. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one.